Good morning, students. Welcome back to our online classes. Now, from today onwards, we'll start our new chapter of geography, that is chapter 5, hydrosphere, oceans, and their circulations. Now, students, in this chapter, you will study about the hydrosphere, that is your water bodies, okay, and also about the oceans and their salinity. Okay, now let us proceed to our topic. First of all, what do you mean by hydrosphere? Now, students, as you all know, that our earth is known as blue planet. Why the earth is known as blue planet? Because our earth surface, 71% of the earth is covered with the water. Okay, and hence you may say that earth is known as blue planet. Okay, now hydrosphere, what do you mean by hydrosphere? It includes all the water bodies. Okay, now students, your water bodies may be in any form. It may be in the ocean, it may be in the form of lake, river, ice caps, wetlands, clouds, etc. Okay, now here, if you see the water and the geosphere, okay, the picture of water and geosphere, and with this picture, I'll start the main topic of the chapter, that is hydrological cycle. Now, students, what do you mean by hydrological cycle? Now, if you see the picture, what can you imagine after seeing this picture? As you have studied in the previous class also about the hydrological cycle. In short, what do you mean by hydrological cycle? In this picture, if you see very clearly, you can notice that here water from the earth's water bodies, it evaporates due to the heat. Here the sun, you may see, and it rises up and changes into the water vapor. Okay, and when it reaches a higher level, the water vapor condenses due to cooling. Condensation effect is also given over here, and this cooling effects, it change into the minute water droplets. Okay, and it forms the droplets, and this droplet, it fall from the cloud as a rain. Okay, here on the left side you may see ocean precipitation rain, and on the right side you may see the land precipitation rain. Okay, now where does this rainwater collects? Now this rainwater ultimately it collects into the form in the this you may see the river, lakes. Okay, and this water collected in the river and lakes, it ultimately it drains into the sea. Okay, and this cycle it continues, and this continuous circulation of water in the various forms within the hydrosphere, atmosphere, and by the process of evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. It is this cycle, it is termed as the hydrological cycle. Okay, I hope you have understood with the help of the picture very clearly. Now, let us proceed on our next topic, that is salinity, the ocean salinity. Okay, now see here, students, that what do you mean by salinity of ocean? Now, salinity of ocean, it depends upon the content of evaporation and volume of the fresh water added to the ocean waters. Okay, now here in this picture, and if you see that the total amount of dissolved salt is in the seawater. Okay, now here the range from 0% near the mouths to the 40% in the Dead Sea, and globally, if all over you may see, the seawater salinity, it remains constant. Okay, now Ocean salinity. What do you mean by ocean salinity and what are the reasons for it? First of all, it depends on the sodium, means dissolved sodium along the way. Second factor is volcanoes. Third is the salt which is in the seawater. It is made up of sodium and chloride, means you find it both in it. Okay. And also the rivers, volcanoes, atmosphere, etc. Okay. Now, the temperature also plays a very important role, and the salinity, it affects the density of the ocean. Now, students, see, sun is the main source of energy. Okay, sun is the main source of energy, and on account of this, generally, if you see, the temperature of the oceans are higher near the equator. Okay, the temperatures are higher near the equator, and it decreases gradually toward the poles. Why so? Now see, you will see here the aspects that there is a decrease in temperature near the polar regions. There is increase in salinity because of freezing. And in third paragraph, if you see that there is an increase in salinity through the evaporations. Now see, students, decreasing temperature in the polar regions, it is because of the chilling winters and water molecules. Okay. And because of this water molecules at the ocean surface, it causes the molecules to slow down. Okay. And it moves closer and closer. Now the next is increasing salinity through the freezing. Now, if the ocean water freezes at the surface ice, it will float on the top of the water. Okay. And a dissolved solid are squeezed out of the ice. And because of this process, salinity goes on increasing. And your last is, it is through the evaporation. Evaporation process, it also plays a very important role in the salinity. Okay. Now, in short, with the diagram, if you can study, just see over here that when does the salinity increases and when it decreases. In short, if you want to write, you can write the following points, that there is an increase in salinity because of evaporation of seawater and also because of freezing of seawater. And on the other hand, if you see decreasing salinity, your main aspect is because of the precipitation of rain and river runoff. Okay. Now, the next is surface oceanic circulation, or you may say ocean circulation. Now, what do you mean by ocean circulation? Now, students, see, if you have been to the seaside, you have seen the waves breaking. Okay. And why these waves break, or what are the reasons for the breaking of the waves? Now, see, there are many factors where you can see that there is a breakdown. Okay. Now, circulation. What do you mean by ocean circulation? Waves, after waves, it moves the water up and down, also forward and backward. Okay. Because of the continuous movement of the ocean water. Students, see, the continuous movement of ocean water from the one part to the another, it is also known as ocean circulations. Okay. Now, you may imagine that ocean water is constantly moving. Now, this movement of the water, it is because of the currents, as I told you. Okay. And though your current is not constant, there are many tendencies. Okay. Also, you may see the buffering of climate or buffering of temperature. Water holds the heat better than air. Okay. And it takes longer to heat up and cool down. Now, This is the reason there are several factors of the ocean circulation. Okay, now in very short, if I say you that desert regions are located towards the west side of the continent, particularly in the southern hemisphere. Okay, now what are the major factors of this movements where you see in this diagram? Now see, there are four major factors, students. The first is temperature differences, mainly between the equatorial and polar water. Okay, why so? As you know that equator is completely hot and polar regions are completely cold. So first of all, this circulation, it differs between the equator and polar regions. If you see here, two lines are given, that is cold regions are in the blue arrows and warm regions are in the red arrows. And if you see the circulation, it is completely affecting the means this surface is completely affecting the circulation because of hot and cold region. So main factor, the first factor is it is mainly because of equatorial and polar water. Okay, now the next factor of the movement is your variation in salinity. Now this ocean circulation, it is also because of the salinity of the oceans. Okay, now the third factor is rotation of earth. Okay, that how does the earth rotate and what are the prevailing effects of wind and forces. And the last factor of the ocean current is gravitational pull of moon and the sun. Okay, of course, as I told you that in the day when the sun's heat fall on the seawater, the complete breeze, it will give the hot effect. And as the sun goes on setting in the night, if you see that the water cools down, and because of that even the breeze gets on cooling effect. Okay, so this is all about the oceanic circulation. Okay, now here with this picture you can clearly imagine that what are the effects of cold current and hot. Okay, that how does this circulation goes on. Okay, now the next topic is waves. First of all, what do you mean by waves? Okay, now see students, wave is a repeating disturbance. Okay, what do you mean by waves? It is a repeating disturbance and it transfers the energy through the matter. Okay, now there are waves of different kinds, but you will study that what do you means, you will study about the waves and what do you mean by destructive waves. Okay, now in this diagram, if you will see that how does the waves travel and what do you mean by crest and trough. Okay, now see students, here the waves, it travel towards the right. Okay, and upper part you are having crest where the arrows are denoted, and the lower part you are having trough, that is below the waves part. Okay, now students, how this waves differs, it is because of the weather. Okay, now in the calm weather, the force of the wind, it forms and ripples. Okay, now as the wind, it goes on blowing strongly, the strong wind blows and the bigger is the wave. Okay, now why there are rise and fall in the waves? It is because of the rise and fall of the water. Okay, and this surface of ocean, it is known as waves. Okay, and when these waves, they reach the shore, the strength and the size of waves increases. Okay, now as I told you that here in the figure, the highest point of the wave, it is termed as crest. Okay, and the lowest point, it is known as trough. Okay, now this is all about the waves. Now let us study about the destructive waves. What do you mean by destructive waves? See, sometimes because of the internal movements of the earth, there are complete damages. You may see the earthquakes, also the shift because of the landslides or shifting of the plates. There are many disasters, that is your volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, landslides, etc. Okay, and even the destructive wave is an example of this. Okay, now because of the destructive waves, or you may see there are enormous sizes in the waves, and when it reaches the huge size or huge height, it causes to the tsunami. Okay, now see here we'll see the picture of tsunami. And what do you mean by tsunami? Tsunami is a series of waves generated when water in a lake or in a sea is rapidly displaced or on a massive scale. Okay, now see, earthquake, landslide, eruptions, and large meteoroids impact all have the potential to generate a tsunami. Means the tsunami can be generated by all these effects. Okay, any disaster the tsunami can generate, and if it generates its range, it forms an unnoticeable to devastating. Okay, now see again the effects of tsunami over here, that how the tsunami can destroy everything. Okay, these are sea waves, cyclones, hurricanes originating over the sea and storm. Okay, there's a picture of cyclones and hurricanes originating from the sea and storms. Okay, this is all about the waves. Now let us start our next topic, that is tides. What do you mean by tides? Tides are periodic rise and fall of water level. Okay. Secondly, it is produced by the gravitational attraction of moon and sun. Okay. And also tides are source of enormous energy. It is an renewable source, and it is a form of hydropower which converts energy of tide to the useful powers. Okay. Now, how does the tides cause? Now see students here, the tides are the periodic rises and falls of the bodies of water, and these tides are caused because of gravitational interactions, okay, between the earth and the moon. Okay, now if you see this picture, the earth and the moon, how does it interact? Okay, now tides are cyclic rising and falling of earth's ocean surface, and also it is caused by tidal force of the moon. Okay, now this tides, it causes changes in the depth of the sea, and this oscillating currents, it are also known as tidal streams. Okay, now see students here, if you will see, there are two types of tides. Okay, there are two types of tides, that is your spring tides and neap tides. Okay, now what do you mean by spring tides? Now students, the tides that occur after the new moon. Okay, the tides that occur after the new moon and full moon are known as spring tides. Okay, now see over here the picture, clearly you can see that here first there is a picture of sun, then earth and full moon. On the next means in the below you will see the sun, the new moon and the earth. Okay, now here if you see that another characteristic of a spring tide is that it occurs at a time when the sun, moon and the earth are in the same line. Okay, here if you see in the picture that sun, moon and the earth are in the same line. Okay, and such tides are higher than the higher tide and lower than the lower tide. Okay, this is all about the spring tide. Now let us proceed to the neap tides. Now, what do you mean by neap tides? See, during the first and the last quarters of the moon, the sun and moon are at the higher angle to each other. Okay, that is to each other at the neap tide occurs. During such tides, there is a difference between high and the low tide is not too much. Means during the neap tide, there is not much or major difference between the high tide and low tide. Okay, or you may also say that during such tides, the difference between high and low tide is not too much. It is equivalent. Okay. Now this is all about the first part of the chapter. Now in the next part, we'll study about the importance of tides. Okay. Please go through this first part of the chapter thoroughly, and if any doubts, you can contact me. Okay. And next part, very soon I'll send you. So before that, send all the previous chapters in return in your classwork copy so that I may verify and make the list of the students. Okay. Send all the previous chapters which I have given. Okay. Thank you.